Good morning and welcome to the webinar today. Today we're going to have a look at using the Autodesk Construction Cloud to manage your project information. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Mark Calloway. I'm one of the application engineers here at Man Machine. I'm a certified Autodesk trainer. I've been with Man Machine for over 5 years now, and I've been working with Autodesk software for over 10 years. My primary area is the AC applications, so pretty much everything that's in the AC collection by Autodesk, with the main ones being Revit, AutoCAD, Autodesk Docs, and Navisworks. So in today's webinar, what we'll be having a look at is managing our projects in the cloud, communicating issues and problems, approval processes, enforcing the ISO 19650 naming convention on our files, working with up-to-date models and data, paperless working, and the central source of information. Just a quick reminder, any previous webinars, if you want to catch up on those, they're all available on the Man Machine YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to jump onto the Man Machine website, manmachine.co.uk, where you can see all our upcoming webinars and events. And also don't forget to check out our blog site as well, where there's lots of tips and tricks and technical articles on various applications and such on there. So we'll jump straight into it. So first of all, the Autodesk Construction Cloud is Autodesk's main cloud solution, with Docs being the primary application for this, the foundation of the construction cloud. It's web-based, so we can access it through pretty much most web browsers. You can see the web address at the top here for the construction cloud. It's just acc.autodesk.com. I'm currently on the project page, as you can see on the screen here, which gives me a list of all the projects I currently have access to. You can access this just using your normal Autodesk account. So the account that you sign into your Autodesk software with, you can use to access the construction cloud. So just to run through this particular screen here, now I am an administrator on the construction cloud, so I'll have access to more areas than the standard end user would do. On here, I can access the Man Machine Hub, and on the Man Machine Hub, we have various projects that we've had set up. On here, I can see all the projects on the Man Machine Hub, and I can see any other projects that I've been given access to as well. So as an administrator, if we just first of all, before we go through most of this, have a look in the top right-hand corner. From here, I can access the account administration. If we just quickly jump into there, I have access to a variety of settings. So first of all, again, we get another project screen, similar to the one that we were on. So the first screen is what everyone will be able to see, but as an administrator, I get access to this area here as well. I can create new projects, which I'll just very quickly show you the screen for. So if I click the Create Project button here, we get a window that opens up. It's going to ask us for various information. Some of this has to be filled in at this point, but some of it we can fill in later on. Once we've created the project and we jump into there, we can access these settings and change some of these. We can give the project a name. We can give it a number. If you have access to more than one account, you can choose which account you want to add that onto there. We can start setting up project types, so you can start organizing your projects. For example, I might choose a demo type for this demonstration, but you'd probably choose something more fitting for your own types of project. You can choose a project template as well. So you'll see in a second that you can create templates based on your existing projects. This is really useful because you might find that as you create multiple projects going forwards, that you're going to find that the folder setup, the permissions, the users that you're adding are pretty standardized between your project. So you can create a template from existing projects, and it just saves you those first few steps of having to create the folders, having to add users and setting up permissions and those sort of things. Once you're happy with that, hit the Create Project button at the bottom, and it'll add your project to the project list on the screen behind. I'm just going to hit cancel there because I have a project pre-set up for today's demonstration. Also, just to point out, as well as being able to see all your active projects, you can also access all your archive projects as well. So one of the things with the Construction Cloud is nothing's really truly deleted. So once you've closed off a project or you've deleted a file or you've deleted a folder, they still exist on the server. So at any time you can go to past projects, you can go to previous folders that have been deleted, and you can restore those if you need to. So it's really difficult to truly lose something on the Construction Cloud. Looking at the list of projects, number of sensible columns, which is the project name, the project number. We have the type of project. So as well as the Autodesk Construction Cloud, its precursor was BIM 360, which you may be familiar with. And we can access our BIM 360 project through the Construction Cloud as well. On the type column, you get a little icon depending on whether it's a Construction Cloud project or a BIM 360 project. With a Construction Cloud project, you get this little ball icon here. And with your BIM 360 project, you get this letter B here. You can see other standard information such as how many members have been added onto a particular project, how many companies have been added as well, the status of the project, and start, end, and creation date. If we have a look on the left-hand side, we have a bit of a main menu over here. Starting at the top, we have a drop-down that currently says Account Admin. You can click on there, and depending whether you're an account admin or whether you're inside a project, different areas that you've got access to will you'll be able to access them in there. And we'll look at that in a little bit more detail once we jump into a project. Also, just to the right of that, again, there's another drop down here. At this level, I can choose the hub that I want to access. But once you've jumped into a project, again, you can access a list of projects like what we have here without having to come out of your existing project. So you can jump from project to project without having to return back to that home screen every single time. So just below where it says Account Admin, we're currently looking at the project settings here. But if we have a look below that, we have members. So we can pre-set up members at a top level. So within your organization, you might have some people that you're going to be adding onto every project. We can set them up here, and then you don't have to set them up inside every single project every single time. We can set up what role that person's going to have, whether they're going to be an architect, whether they're going to be structural, whether they're BIM coordinator, and we can choose what company they're going to be associated with, whether they're going to be within your organization or an external organization that you want to give access into your project. Using those, the member's name, the role, and the company, we can control access to areas within the Construction Cloud. We might set up a folder for an external architect, and we might add that company to that folder. Any members that you've added to that company would have access to that folder. So you don't have to add in each individual and set up the permissions. You can just add in the company, and everyone that belongs to that company can have access. We can do the same with roles. You can assign a role to a folder, and then everybody with that role will get a certain level of access. And as mentioned, you can do individual members if you want to be really specific on the individual level of access onto your folders. Below members, we have access to our project templates. As mentioned, you can create templates out of any existing project. So if you have multiple types of projects you work on, maybe there's 4, 5, 6 different types of projects you tend to work on, but you tend to repeat the same settings for those. You can set up multiple templates, and then when you create a project, you just choose that template, and you've got a starting point where you can go from. A bit further down, we have apps. So there's various apps that you can add onto your account to expand on functionality. For example, if you're using BIM Collab and you've got projects on there, you can install the BIM Collab app, which will allow you to access those projects from docs. So there's a variety of plugins in here to choose from. So we'll just jump back to that main project page. So I'm just going to click the shortcut that I've got saved here, and we'll jump back to that original screen. couple of other things I'll just point out. In the very top right-hand corner, you can access your Autodesk account. You can see I'm signed in here at the moment. I can access my profile settings at any time. We have our list of projects here. And again, as an admin, I can create a project from this screen too. But as a typical end user, you wouldn't have that button there. I'm just going to reorganize these projects by name by clicking on the name heading here. If I scroll down, I'm just going to find the project that we've got set up for the example today. Left click on that and jump straight into that project. Okay. So the project that I'm looking at today is this 39,999 sample docs project. As mentioned, you can click on this, and any project that you've been given permission to view, you can access that list here and jump from project to project if required. You'll see in the very top left-hand corner, it now says docs. Now that we're inside a project, we have access to docs as the fundamental basis of every project. If there's any additional modules that you've been given access to, you can click where it says docs and you can access those as well. There is other add-ins for the construction cloud, such as Collaborate Pro, you've got Build. There's a variety of additional licenses that you can purchase to expand on functionality, such as whether you want to do flash detection in the cloud, whether you want to be more have more collaborative tools, such as being able to set up meetings and work with other teams, and whether you want to be able to communicate easily with on site and stuff like that. So there is extra modules that will expand the functionality of the construction cloud. And you can see here that I also have access to design collaboration and model coordination. However, we won't be taking a look at those today. Again, jump onto the Man and Machine YouTube channel, and there's some videos on there that will demonstrate some of the functionalities of these extra tools. Also, as an admin at account level and a project level, I have access to those settings from here too. But we'll stick on docs for now and we'll run through the functionality here. So being on the docs part of this project, again, we have a menu down the left-hand side, and we'll start at the top and we'll work our way down. So first of all, we're looking at the files. Just to the right of that, we can see our main folder structure here. At the top level, we have a folder called Project Files, and inside there, we can set up our own custom folder structure. Creating folders is really simple. Against Project Files, if I want to create a new subfolder, I've got these three little dots on the right-hand side of the column here. I can click on that for a little pop-out menu. You can see there's a number of settings available here. I'm just going to hit the Add Subfolder button at the top, and it's going to create a new folder that I can name. Let's pick something sensible. Let's go 050, and let's just call it Shared, for example. So maybe we want a folder that we can set up where external people can access a shared folder. Maybe we're producing an architectural model. We've hired in a contractor for the ventilation, plumbing, all that sort of stuff. And we want to be able to share the latest architectural model, which they can link into Revit, which if they have access to docs, you can link directly the Revit models directly into Revit. And as we publish the latest version of our architectural model into this folder, the next time they open up their project, it'll automatically load in that latest version. And if you've set up the monitoring tools and stuff like that within Revit, they'll get notified of any changes that's going to affect any of their components. So we'll add that shared folder there. Now that we've added a new folder, we might want to set up who has access to this particular folder. Again, if I go to the shared folder and click on those three little dots, we have the ability to set permissions. I'm going to click on permission settings and we should get a panel on the right-hand side appear. You can see myself and one of my colleagues, who's also called Mark, being project admins on this project, are automatically added on here with full permissions. If I want to add a new user, a new role, or a new organization into this folder, all I need to do is click the Add button at the top. I can then choose who I'm adding, I can add the name of a member who I've pre-set up before. So this is the advantage of pre-setting up members. And for example, if I type in another one of my colleagues' names here, Gareth, you can see it's grabbed him, and he will then have any associated settings with his account. We can also add in full email addresses. So even if somebody doesn't yet have an Autodesk account, you can add them into here. They'll get an email notification, and they'll have to create themselves an Autodesk account before they can ultimately log into Docs. But again, that's free to create the account, and they can either bring their own Docs license, or you can supply them with a Docs license for them to be able to log into here. We can add roles and we can add companies. Let me just add my colleague Gareth here. So I'm just going to select him. You can add multiple users, roles, and companies in one go. And if I expand permissions here, we can see the different levels that we can give access to this folder. At its most basic, we can allow people to view files, but not be able to upload, download, or make any changes to those. We then start ramping up what people can do until ultimately they have full access to the folder. They can make changes, they can add markups onto stuff, they can download files, and they can upload new files as well. I'll just close this, and we won't spam Gareth with emails that he's been added to folders and stuff today. Okay. So we'll have a look at a folder that's kind of been pre-set up. So we'll have a look at the architect folder today. I can see it's got a subfolder because we have this little arrow to the left-hand side, and I can click on that and I can expand that in the file tree here without having to open up the folder on the panel on the right-hand side. I could click on the architect folder and I would then see all the subfolders on the right-hand side. But we'll just delve all the way down, and we'll go and have a look at our Revit files folder here. So I have a couple of files preloaded up here. You have a number of options for uploading files, and I'll run through those in a second. But with these Revit files, just to run through this window a little bit first. So again, we get the file's name. We have a number of attributes going across the top here. We have some standard attributes that come with Docs, such as the markup column, which will indicate if any markups have been added onto a particular project or drawing or PDF, for example. We can add our own custom markups, not markups, attributes into here as well. There's a few limitations. The ceilings for these limitations are extremely high. So just to point these out before we go into any detail here. And another useful little feature is at the very top right-hand corner of the Docs window, you have this little question mark in a circle. Clicking on that, you can access the online help. This is a really useful web page, is this one. It's kept up to date, and the instructions in here are very clear and very easy to follow. Going directly onto here, we can have a look at the product and tool limitations. I'll just point out a few of them, and you'll just see how extreme these are and how much freedom you do actually have. So first thing I'll point out is there is no data size limit for your project. So if you only upload a gigabyte worth of files onto a project, that's fine. If you need to upload a terabyte worth of files, that's fine. If you want to upload 50 gigabytes, terabytes of files, there is currently no limit on the amount of data that you can upload onto a particular project. So just simply from a file storage and a management point of view, you're pretty well covered in terms of how much data you want to upload onto a single project. You can create multiple projects as well. You'll see that there's some limitations here on a project by project basis. You'd struggle to hit these limitations, but again, you can create as many projects as you want as well. Some of these are pretty standard stuff, such as the maximum name length of a folder is 255 bytes. That's just a Windows computer sort of limitation. You'll see in a second that you can set up the folder structure of your Docs project on your desktop computer. So you don't have to log into the web page every time you want to access the file. You can access them directly off your computer. And that's just a standard Windows computer limitation, which if you're working fine on your computers, then you don't need to worry about that. But just to show you how extreme some of these limitations are, maximum file size for a single file, 5 terabytes. I'm really going to struggle to create a single file that's 5 terabytes in size. I'm pretty sure they're out there. Some of you might be screaming at me going, yep, I've seen some files that are 5 terabytes in size. I'd love to see a file size that's 5 terabytes in size, but you're going to really struggle to hit that limit. Maximum number of files that you can put in a single folder, 10,000 in a single folder. Again, you're going to really struggle with that. And if you've got 10,000 files in a single folder, you're not structuring your projects correctly there. So there is a couple of limitations, but they're kind of sensible ones that you're really going to struggle to hit as well. Okay, so just coming back into Docs from there. So I mentioned you can add your own custom attributes. So for that, we've got this little gear icon on the far right hand side. I can click on there and I can see the standard attributes that comes with Docs. But then at the bottom, I've got this attribute settings here. If I click on attribute settings, first of all, I can create my own custom attributes. I can click on there. I can give this attribute a name. I can choose what type of attribute this is going to be, or it's just going to be a simple text field that you can manually fill in, whether it's going to be a date, or whether you want to pre-create a drop-down list of options to be chosen from. I've pre-created a few of these, so we'll pick one that I've pre-created. So I've got one here called MM for Man Machine. I'm just going to simply tick that, hit the save button, and that attribute's now being added onto here. Now against any of my files, I can come to the MM column. I can click this little pencil icon here to edit that value. And I don't know, against this, let's just type in 001. Not a clue what that means, but we'll go with it. And that file now has that attribute associated with it. So if you need to create your own custom attributes, you can create those and you can start filling those in against your files. So we'll take a look at some of these files. So at the moment we have some Revit files on screens. I've got some PDFs and DWGs in some other folders. So Docs has what's called supported files and unsupported files. You can upload almost any file type onto Docs. There's a few exceptions which kind of make sense again, such as executable files, exe files. You really shouldn't be uploading executable files onto shared cloud locations anyhow. It's a big security risk. You don't know if there's going to be a virus in there and stuff like that. So you really shouldn't be uploading and sharing executable files. So that's a big no-no. You won't be able to do that on Docs neither. But supported files, these are the ones which through the Docs web browser, we can directly click on and we can view those files. So these Revit files, I don't have to have Revit and open Revit to be able to view these. I can do it directly through Docs on the web page. The same with PDFs, the same with DWGs, the same with point clouds as well. You can open point clouds directly within the web browser. Unsupported file formats. There's going to be custom programs out there that you might have had developed for your own organization or some just really obscure application that has its own custom file format that outside of its own application, nothing's going to understand what that is. Maybe you've got a file type that's a .abc extension. I've not got a clue what that is, and most applications wouldn't be able to open that. Same with Docs. You can upload that file onto Docs. You can store it on there. You can download that. You can share it. You're just not going to be able to click on it within the web browser and open it directly within the construction cloud, which makes sense. So we'll have a look at one of these supported files here. So I'm just going to click whichever one's at the top of the list here. So this is, by the looks of it, the advanced sample project that comes as standard with every Revit installation. So let's give that a left click and see what happens. Okay. So with it being a supported file, we can view that through the Docs web interface. If you use Revit, it's a similar sort of setup. You've got a view cube in the top right-hand corner. You can click on these faces and edges and stuff, and you can reorientate the 3D view that's available. You've got a little house icon to restore the 3D view. And annoyingly, my taskbar's popped up here, hiding the icons below. But we've got a number of tools here, such as orbit and pan. We can section. We can go into first-person mode. We can start pulling out measurements and stuff like that. We have access to certain settings as well to alter the appearance on the screen if you wish to. But I won't bore you with the settings window. We have a number of other additional functionality. So I'll kind of start on the left-hand side and work myself across to the right-hand side of the screen. So on the far left-hand side, we have a couple of icons here, and there's a couple of key ones that I want to show you. First of all, we have these sheets and views at the top. So we're currently looking at the 3D model, but you can control inside Revit which 3D views and which 2D views can be visible. If you're uploading your Revit project onto the cloud and you're putting it in a shared folder, you might want people to be able to view the 3D model. You might not want them to be able to see every single view and sheet that you've got saved inside that project. So from within Revit, we can control what is actually visible on docs. On this particular project, I've only made 3 views available. We have this 0-1 entry level, we have the furniture layout for the 0-1 entry level, and we have the site view here. I can view all these. I can just simply left click on them and we'll go with the entry level. And it's going to open up that view within the web browser. Hopefully. There we go. It's my internet connection must be running a little slow there. There was a little bit of lag. But I can access that view directly through Docs. And this is really useful for anyone that doesn't have access to Revit. Whilst we're in this view, we get a number of tools available to us. So on the right-hand side, we have a number of markup tools. So you can have a simple draw tool. You can kind of do squiggles and circles and all sorts of stuff on the screen. You can control the line weights and the colors and that sort of stuff of those. You have access to some basic shapes as well. We have text. We can add revision clouds. You can create call outs and you can create your own custom polyline shapes as well. You can also raise issues, which I'll show you in a second. And again, you can access the measurement tool as well. So you have a number of markup tools that you can add onto this particular view. This is really useful because you can publish views and sheets and stuff like that to PDF and upload those onto Docs and share those within Docs. You can do markups and you can share those outside your organization. Should you wish, bounce them back to a contractor and all that sort of stuff, and then they can bounce things back to you. We'll have a look at doing transmittals in a moment. If I just jump back to the 3D view, there we go. A couple of icons further down on the left-hand side, you have access to issues. If I click on the issues button, I can see all the issues that are outstanding on this particular file. You can see within the model, you've got these little dots scattered about. So these are the issues that have been pre-created. Okay, and the list is for those are on the left-hand side here. I can click on those and I can access any information associated with that particular issue. Again, issues will tie directly in with Revit. If you're not aware, there's a free plugin from Autodesk called the Issues plugin. You can download that, download and install that through your desktop connector. You should have that just sat there in your list of updates to install. It adds a tab within Revit, and again, I'll give you a quick demonstration of this in a moment. But you can raise issues within Docs, and again, if you install one of the modules such as Collaborate Pro, you can do clash detection in the cloud. You can raise issues in there, and then you can assign those to users. Within Revit, those issues will just appear in a window panel on your right-hand side, and you can access those issues that have been assigned to yourself directly within Revit. It'll take you to the component that the issue is assigned to. You can fix that, you can update the issue, and that'll automatically update any notes that you've added or status changes this back up onto Docs and onto the cloud. I'll give you a demonstration of that in a moment. First thing I'll want to do though is want to be able to create a new issue on here. Fairly simple process. This time I'm going to go to the right hand side of the screen, and again we can see an icon that looks like the issues icon on the left hand side. However, this one's going to allow us to create a new issue within this 3D view, and we can do the same in 2D views as well. We can choose what category this issue is going to be. Maybe I've spotted a safety issue, so I'm going to select safety. And then within the model, I just need to pick the component that's the safety issue. Again, you can section your views and stuff like that. I'm just going to pick a window or something. Maybe this glass panel here is a nice, easy one for us to see within this view and find within Revit and for it to show us. I'm going to left click on there. I'm going to add one of those dots to this view. And this issue is already created and saved. It'll open up the issue on the right-hand side. I can start filling it in. But as mentioned, at this point, I could just go through the model and just create these and fill them out later. But maybe I'll come in here and we'll change something. Let's assign it to myself. As a project administrator, I can view all the issues anyhow, but I would assign this to whoever's responsible for this. I can go through here, I can add descriptions and all sorts of stuff, a due date maybe, but all I need to do is hit the X in the top right hand corner and close that off. It saves as you're filling it in. We'll jump into Revit in a moment and you'll be able to see that there. Now, let me see if I can just get rid of that taskbar at the bottom. It doesn't seem to want to auto hide, does it? So we might just have to put up with that for the next 30 minutes or so. Okay, so we'll jump out of this viewer for the time being. So we'll kind of start interacting with Revit, one of the Autodesk applications, which this works really well with, and it's one of my main applications as well. So we'll have a look at this particular project through Revit. We'll have a look at how you can save to the cloud as well. So first of all, I'm going to open up Revit 2022. Now, from an end user perspective, maybe I don't log into Autodesk Docs through the web portal. I just simply want to be able to open up my Revit projects, work on them, and save on them. So from the home screen within Revit, I can go to where it says Autodesk Docs on the left-hand side. You may not have noticed that there before. If you're running an older version of Revit, maybe you're going back as far as Revit 2018, that is there. It's just going to say BIM 360 instead, which was the precursor to Autodesk Docs. Once I've clicked on Autodesk Docs, the home screen changes from showing the recent files to me accessing any projects that I have permission to access from the cloud. In here, I'm just going to scroll down and I'm going to find the project that we've been looking at, which is this sample docs project here. I can access the folder structure. Again, this will be limited based on your permissions. As admin, I can see everything. I'm going to go into the architects folder. I'm going to go to the Revit files folder. And I'm going to find that same project that we were just looking at a moment ago. I'm going to left click on that. And Revit's going to download and open up that project. And it's pretty fast, to be fair. If you're storing your files on your local server, and especially if you're working through VPN, which tends to be quite slow anyhow, this is either going to feel natural or it's going to feel faster than what you're used to. Again, it will depend on your internet connection. I'm a bit rural where I am, but it is a fairly standard internet connection that I've got here. So this is the project that we were just looking at. So first of all, I'll show you the issues plugin. So on Revit, at the very top, the issues plugin just installs itself as a tab. We can open and close the issues window by clicking this manage issues button here. And that's going to give me the panel on the right-hand side. You can see it's already got a list of issues from the project. We can already see the one that we created at the top here, this number 13 safety issue. We can see that in the model as well. But if for whatever reason your connection is running slow or something, or it's just not synchronizing as fast as you want it to, you can force it to reload that list here. Hit the reload button and it'll update the list on the right hand side and forcefully grab any issues off of the cloud. I can left click on this issue in the issues window. And Revit will kind of zoom me into the location where that model is, where the issue is, and it's going to select the component that is the issue. Now, I picked this one because it was a nice, easy one for us to see and access both in the viewer and through Revit. But if it's something inside the model and it's been obscured, maybe it's there's a junction box somewhere inside a maintenance room, which, although it's going to kind of take you to it, it's not going to section the view. It's selected the component. So we can just go to the Modify tab and hit the Selection Box tool. And Revit's just going to automatically crop the model to the selected component. And you can see that it's selected that glass panel there and a little bit of the environment around it. It's just standard Revit tools at this point if you need to adjust the section box to include more of the surrounding area. But at this point, I can work on the model as usual, resolve the issue. I can go to the status. I can change the status if I want. Let's mark it as in review. I can go down, I can add a comment, something like that, keep it simple. Submit that, and that's already uploaded to the cloud now. So from a coordinator's point of view or BIM manager or something like that, through Docs, I can now see the status of this issue's changed, and I can review that. So this model is already saved to the cloud, but any Revit project can be saved onto Docs if you've got access. All you need to do is go File, like usual. You can go to the Save As button, and you've got the option at the top to save as a cloud model. Instead of getting a box that's going to allow you to navigate your local computer system, it'll just open up a save box where you can navigate the folder structure of Docs. You can choose a project you want to save to, and you can choose the location that you want to save that to. And otherwise, it just behaves as normal whilst using Revit. You just open it through the Docs screen on the home screen, and you just hit the Save button on the Quick Access toolbar going forwards, and it's just going to save automatically onto the cloud. I also mentioned you can control the views that are visible from within Docs. So again, within Revit, you just need to go to the Collaborate tab. On the Collaborate tab, we have two settings here. You have this Manage Cloud Models and this Publish Settings here. So we'll have a look at the Publish Settings first. If I click on Publish Settings, I can create these sets. So you can group views together and choose which set is going to be published with a model onto Docs. So again, you can create new sets. You then just pick from the list of views within the models that you want to be visible through Docs. So these are all in your project, but you get to filter what's visible to everybody that has access to the Docs folder. Once you've set that up, you can then publish the model to the cloud. So even though we're working and saving to the cloud, any changes that we're making as an end user isn't instantly visible through the Docs viewer. So we can choose certain points in time when we want to publish the latest view of this model on Docs. Because the last thing you want is to be halfway through making some changes and somebody goes onto the Docs viewer, takes a look at your model and start pulling measurements and stuff like that out whilst you're halfway through making changes, because you're going to be saving as you go during the day. So we can control the viewer within Docs through Revit. Based on your published settings, you then go to your Manage Cloud Models. You don't have to be in the same project to do this. It'll give you a list of all the projects you have access to. You just need to find the relevant project, in this case, the sample Docs project. Choose the project that you want to update the version for on Docs, and we can see our advanced project there. We've not made any changes, so we are viewing the latest version of the model, but if I was to make some changes in the model, I could hit this button here and it would update the model within Docs. I've pre-done this, so I'll show you that in a second. And that's all you need to do from an end user point of view. If I just minimize Revit again, and we'll jump back into the Docs window, we have our advanced sample project here. We've worked on it, we've fixed some issues, we've changed the views that we want to be visible through Docs, and we've published the latest version. So we do have a column for version. Now we'll see that this particular project is on version 5 at the moment, and you control that through Revit by choosing when to publish. The advantage of that is if you're working on a project, you don't want the version to update every time you resave this file to the cloud. You might save it 5 or 6 times. If you've got Collaborate Pro and you're working on work shared projects with central models, and you've got a team of 10 people working on a file and they're synchronizing and saving throughout the day, that version number is going to skyrocket. So you can control this using that published setting. You can click on this V5 here, and we can access the version history of this file. Again, nothing's truly deleted within Revit. We can see all the previous versions. We can open all the previous versions. We can download any of the previous versions, and we can copy out a previous version and save it under a new name on Docs if we wish. If you ever need to, you can make a previous version the current version. Maybe there's been a mistake introduced or something, and it's just easier to go back to a previous version. Maybe a client's changed their mind on something and you want to go back to an earlier design. So you can access all these previous versions at any time. And that's for all files on here. Okay. So you have that ability. So we'll take a quick look at some other file types, as well as having a look at our Revit files there, just to demonstrate a few others. I have a PDF folder here. I'm going to go to my PDF folder. I'm going to open up a PDF by left-clicking on it. It's a exported file format, and I can view that PDF. Again, we get pretty much all the same tools that we have access to within the Revit viewer for the 2D views there as well. We can create issues, we can add markups, we can take measurements and all that sort of stuff. If I go into the DWG folder, find a DWG, again, I can click on that. And again, we have all the same tools there as well. You can access point clouds now within Docs. I don't have an amazing point cloud example here, but we'll open it up. It's still pretty cool. It's just a standard point cloud scan that comes installed with Recap. If you're not aware, Recap is Autodesk's point cloud application where you can load in your point cloud from your scanners, and you can start cleaning up the data that's in there. It's pretty responsive. This is just running straight out of the web browser on Docs. I can come into here and I can start taking measurements and stuff as well. So it's a pretty cool feature that has been added earlier this year. One other thing I'll point out just before we kind of start moving forwards a little bit. Again, if I just jump back to that sample Revit project, I know I keep on clicking on the same one here, but because we've got that version control, that version history, and this is the same for DWGs and PDFs as well, we can compare different versions of a file. You've got this compare tool in the top right-hand corner. I can click on there. We're currently looking at version 5 in the 3D view. Let's go back a version or two. Let's go to version 2. We'll compare the two 3D views between those two models. I'm going to hit the compare button there. I'm going to take it just a second for it to update the screen. There we go. But it's going to show you everything that changed between those two particular versions. It's going to color code the components. In yellow, the items that exist in both versions but have somehow changed. So maybe they've moved. In green, are components that have been added between the two versions. And in red are elements that have been deleted. Again, I can access all the settings on the right-hand side for viewing those different components that have changed. So it's a nice feature for comparing documents and models with previous versions and seeing what's changed and what's gone on. Okay. So I mentioned there's a few ways that you can add your files into Docs. So we kind of saw one there, which is through Revit or through AutoCAD, through your Autodesk application. You can go to the Save button. You can save directly onto the Autodesk Construction Cloud. You can just simply drag and drop files onto the web page. I have a folder here with some files that I made earlier. I can pick a file. Let's just go with something small for the limited time that we have. I have a basic sample family here. Really don't matter what type of file you're using. Again, so long as it's not an exe file, or something that's restricted, I can just drag that with my mouse cursor, move it over the web page, let go, and that's going to instantly start uploading in the background. I can click done there and just leave that processing in the background. And so long as I leave the web page open, I can change between folders and areas within Docs, and that's just going to process away in the background there. But you do have to leave the web page open, as you would expect for that to continue uploading. The second option, or the third option, because that was the second option, the third option that you've got is something called the desktop connector. Again, another free little app that you can download and install from Autodesk. And what that does, again, if I just drag that same folder back onto screen here, is on your computer, it's going to add a folder for Autodesk Docs. I can select this on my computer. I can go to the hub of my choosing. I can find any project that I have access to. And then based on the folders and files I have access to, just directly on my computer, I can start navigating those as though this folder structure was on my computer. I can copy and paste files into here. I can drag and drop files into here. I can save into this folder structure. And through the desktop connector, that's automatically going to upload. And I can open files as well from here as well, just simply by double clicking on those. The advantage with this is if you have a large number of files you want to upload, maybe you've just set up a project and you've been working on your local server for some time, and you've decided to make the move to Docs, and you want to move your project onto Docs, but you have 100 files or folders and stuff that you want to move. Again, you just drag and drop them into here, and then in the background on your computer, you'll have your Autodesk desktop connector, and that's just going to busy away in the background and synchronizing all the files that you've added on your computer onto the construction cloud. And so long as your computer's turned on, that's just going to run away. If it gets to the end of the day, it hits 5 o'clock, you go home, you come back to work the next day, you turn your laptop on, it's just going to continue where it got to. So it's a great way for uploading large amounts of information on really large files. As you saw, 5 terabytes, I think, was the size for a single file. Yeah, use the desktop connector and it'll just busy away in the background. If you drag and drop any file into this location, it will instantly show on Docs. I'll just give you a quick demonstration of that. If I just jump all the way back to the sample folder. Whoops. There we go. Let's do, let's have a look. Again, we'll keep it small. Which file did we upload previously? The advanced. Can't remember now. Let's pick something completely different. I don't know what this one is. Arc link model. Let's just move that out of that folder. Then I can skip all the way forwards, and then I'll drag and drop. That's not the right folder. And I'll drag and drop that onto here. And we should see that appear instantly in there. It might take a few seconds or minutes, depending on the file size, for it to fully process and for you to be able to click on it and view it. But it will appear there instantly, and you'll be able to see that it's processing. So again, architects folder, and we're looking at the Revit folder in the background. Just double check. We are. So I'm just going to drag that off of my other screen. I'm going to drop it here. It's going to let me do that. There we go. You can see the desktop connector instantly popped up there, and it should appear in here. Might be making me lie. Let's hit F5 to refresh. That should appear and tell me that it's processing. There we go. So we can see the file there already. It's still uploading in the background maybe, or the Autodesk servers are still processing that, but I can see that file there now. It's got a little spinning circle. As soon as that's finished, or even before that's finished, you can click on here. You might have to wait, but at some point you'll be able to click on it and directly view that through the web browser. And those are the various ways that you can access the folder structure within Docs. So just to move on to some of the other features, we can enforce naming conventions on folders. So again, if we have a look at our folder structure towards the left, we can see some of these have a little tick icon against the picture of the folder. You can see one there, you can see one there, you can see one there. That indicates that a naming convention is being enforced on that folder. If you have your own internal naming convention, you can set up your own custom naming conventions within Docs. If you're working to 19650, that's already set up on Docs, ready to go if you want to enforce that on your folders. What that means is if somebody tries to upload a file that doesn't match the naming convention, it will either prompt them to meet that naming convention, it'll stop them from uploading that folder. And if they do manage to upload that file with an invalid name, it will go into what's called a holding area. You can see here in this holding area, there's an example that I uploaded previously that doesn't match the 19650 naming convention, and it's going to go into here. As a coordinator, I can come into here and I can review files that fail. I can either bounce that back to the person who's responsible for that file and tell them, name your file correctly, and especially if it's somebody who has the habit of doing this, or I can rename that manually myself, should I know what that needs to be and resolve that issue, and it'll just then pop up in the correct folder location that the user was uploading that to. So to enforce a naming convention on a folder, first of all, the folder has to be empty, obviously, because the files that are already in there might not meet that naming standard. So the folder does have to be empty to start off with. Again, if there's anything already in there, just copy it out onto your computer and paste it back in using the desktop connector once you've enforced that naming convention. But all we need to do is go to the folder, again, click on the three little dots. We can, where's it gone? More, enforce naming standards, and then we can choose the naming standard that we want to apply, whether it's this folder only, this folder and subfolders. There is no subfolders on this one, so it's grayed out. I can then hit the enforce button, and you can now see that that's been enforced. If I just drag and drop the file that I used in the previous example from my desktop into this folder, which most definitely doesn't meet the naming standard, straight away it's warning me it does not meet the naming standard, and it forces me to rename this file in order to be able to upload that there. I'm not going to go through the process of renaming it. I'll just hit the X there because you get the point. So we can either enforce the 19650 naming convention out of the box, or we can set up our own naming convention rules should we wish, and we can choose on a folder by folder basis whether we want to enforce that. Okay. So again, looking at the menu on the left-hand side, so we spent quite a bit of time on files there. It kind of is the main part of Docs, so it needs the time to go through the tools there. And again, there's a few other things I could show you, but again, we're kind of limited on time today. So we'll move on and we'll have a look at reviews. So one of the things that we can set up within Docs is review processes. So maybe we have a project that's work in progress, and then at some point, maybe on a Friday afternoon, it needs to be published and shared, so contractors and stuff can see the latest version of our project. Before we publish that, instead of just simply copy and pasting the file into a shared folder, maybe it needs to be reviewed by somebody. Maybe there's an internal process it has to go through. So we'll have a look at the settings in a second, but if I just click on the reviews button here, we can create a new review. I'm going to hit the create button. I can choose the file that I want to go through this process. I'll just pick one at random. We'll just go with that one there. You can add multiple files. I'm going to hit the create button there. I can choose the approval workflow, which has been pre-set up. I have an example one here. It's just a simple one-step process. I can give that this submittal a name, and then it'll ping the relevant person to have a look at this file and either say yay or nay on that, and maybe bounce it back to me or maybe approve it. If they approve it, maybe as part of the approval process, it gets copied into the shared folder. I won't actually set that up here. So as mentioned, you can create your own review processes. If I go to the settings button on the far right-hand side, I can create a new approval workflow. we have a number of options. So you can do a simple one-step approval. I pick a file, it pings somebody, they check it, and it either passes or it fails. Maybe I have a two-step process, so one person approves it, and then it goes to a second person to also sign it off. I won't explain all of these, but you've got 3 steps, you've got 4 steps, 5 steps, 6 steps. You've got group approvals as well, and then a few more complicated where it might go through a couple of people before there's a group approval and such. So you can create your own custom processes here should you require them. Below reviews, we have access to transmittals. So we can share files in a number of ways in Docs. First of all, we can share it internally. So if I'm working within Docs, the contractors are working in Docs, we're all working collaboratively. Maybe I've set up a project and I've given the contractors their own folders and stuff like that within my project in which they can work from. Maybe I want to share files and stuff with them from folders that they don't have access to. Maybe I want to send them a couple of PDFs that I've been doing markups on or something. I can create a new transmittal, just hit the create transmittal button. Again, I can choose the files that I want to share with somebody. Again, let's pick a PDF. We'll go with the one that we looked at earlier. You can add multiple if you want. Maybe I'll add all 3 of these. Hit the create button. I can give this transmittal a name. I don't know, 001 review or something like that if I can spell. I can choose who the recipient is. It could be an individual person, it can be a role, it can be a company. And I get to view the files below there. So maybe I didn't want to include this one. I can just hit the X there and remove it. And maybe I realize I've missed a file. I can hit the add files button there. I can add a message and just say, please, can you have a look at these or this? And I could then share this with that particular recipient. Again, I won't spam my colleagues with transmittals, so I won't add anyone in there and hit the create button. But that would then, inside Docs, give them access to view these. So they might get an automated email ping through to their email address to say there's a new transmittal awaiting you, and then they can come on here and view these. And those files have not left Docs. They've stayed within Docs. The second way you can share files is the more traditional share a web link for somebody to download. There's settings associated with that, so you can turn that feature off if you don't want people to just randomly be sending web links for downloading files to people. You can also set an expiration date for the web links as well. So maybe you've shared a file, but you're only going to give them 5 days access to that. As a user, you can choose whether it's going to be 5 days, week, month, 90 days that's valid for. But as a project administrator, I can set a hard limit that nobody can share a link for longer than X amount. Maybe 7 days is the maximum on the project. Again, end users can control how long the link's valid for, but there's that hard limit of 7 days they can't go past. Also, as well, working with different versions of files. So again, if I just go back to that project that has those 5 different versions. So if I share the link for this file, and then after sharing the link, we go on to version 6, we can control what happens in terms of that download link as to which file is actually going to download, whether it's version 5 they'll be downloading or version 6 they're downloading. In the settings, I can choose, no, that link is purely for the version that was shared. So if it was version 5 that we shared the link for, they'll only ever be able to download version 5 using that web link. If we've moved on to version 6, it's only version 5 they'll be able to download. They won't be able to see version 6. They'll need a new download link for that. The other option is I can set it so that it'll just share the latest version when they click that link. So maybe I produce the link when it's version 5, but if we move on to version 6 and they click the link, it's just going to download the latest version. If we move on to 7, it'll download 7, and if we're on version 8, it'll download version 8. So you do have a number of settings enabled to control how you can share files within and outside of Docs, and the behavior behind that. Again, moving down on the left-hand side, after transmittals, we have access to issues. On here, I'm project admin, so I can see every single issue on this project. But based on the end user and what's been assigned to them, they can come here and they can review any issues that's been assigned to them, either as a member, a role, or a company. So they can come in here and see what's outstanding. They can click on these and they can access all the same settings that we've seen a few times now, and they can review those and make changes to the actual status directly within Docs. So they don't have to do it through Revit. They can do it from in here if they need to, which is particularly useful for like PDFs and stuff where you won't have that issues plugin. Under issues, we have access to reports. So we can set up some basic reports that will automatically get emailed to yourself. You can set these up on a schedule. So maybe on a Monday morning, you want a list of outstanding issues to be emailed to you to review and get an idea of where we are on the project. If those number of issues are building up and don't seem to be getting closed, on a Monday morning, an email is going to come through and you're going to be able to see that happening in the background without having to come onto the Autodesk Construction Cloud webpage and find the relevant project and start having a look at the list of issues in here. It'll just ping an email through to your inbox where you can access that report. There's a few templates pre-created, but you can create your own custom reports as well. So that kind of covers the bulk of the settings on here. Just to kind of run through the remaining tabs. Members, again, if you've pre-set up members at a hub level, you can add them into here, but you can also add in custom people as well, custom members into your project. Maybe you've got Joe from Electrical & Co. That's doing a bit of an odd job somewhere on your site, and you just need to give him access. You can just add them on here and then give them permission to a folder. We have this bridge feature, pretty useful. Not something I can really demonstrate here, but what this kind of allows you to do is set up a folder that's bridged between another project. Maybe you started working on a project as a consultant and then you've realized that somebody else has their own Autodesk Construction Cloud project set up for the same project, and you want to start collaborating with each other. We can bridge folders between two separate projects. Anything added into the folder by one company will just automatically sync with the folder in the project that belongs to the other company, and it's just a means of being able to share files between projects, between different projects. Settings at the bottom, not too much in this window, but a few key ones I'll point out. So first of all, when we originally created this project, I mentioned you can change some of the settings within here. You've created the project, you can do that here. Just hit the edit button and you can start editing the information there. Another really useful thing about the Construction Cloud is this Revit Cloud Models upgrade. So when you create your project and you upload your first Revit file onto the project, this project is locked for that version of Revit, which if you use Revit, you'll know that the version is very important. You don't want to start working on a project that everyone's working in 2020, but you've installed the latest version of 2023 and you do your work in 2023, and then nobody else is able to use that. It can be quite a serious mistake to make. So as soon as you upload one Revit project onto the Construction Cloud, it enforces that version of Revit. So I wouldn't be able to upload or save a project from Revit 2023 because you don't want mixtures of Revit versions in the same project. However, you might come to a point in time where the project's moved on and you all want to upgrade to a newer version of Revit, either collaboratively with other consultants or just within your own organization, if you're just purely using this as your own document management system of some sort. So we can come into here and you just simply need to hit this upgrade button. You can run a test first just to make sure everything's going to run through fine. but we can at any point in time come on here and hit this upgrade button, and it will upgrade every single Revit project to the version of Revit that you want to use. This is great because it's going to do it en masse. If you have 20, 30, 40, 100 Revit projects, you don't want to have to go into each of those individually and save them in the latest version of Revit and then back onto the cloud, which you can't do, but you don't want to be doing it individually anyhow. This will just blanket do all the projects in there. So hit the upgrade button, and the construction cloud is just going to automatically upgrade every single project, Revit project within your project to the Revit version. Okay. So I've talked quite a bit there. I have ran over slightly there, so I do apologise. There's more I could show you on here, and there's other modules that you can add onto the construction cloud to expand on the functionality. But if you've got the AC collection, you've got docs in there as part of it. Docs comes with the AC collection, so there's nothing stopping you from going away and using this straight away. So if you do have the AC collection, do give it a test, have a play around, set up a hub, add a project onto there, and have a play around. Again, if you've got any questions and queries, or you want assistance setting up those projects, or you want more detailed workflow or training for your users on how to use this with various applications and such, do contact Man & Machine. We do offer those sort of services. But if you've got the AC collection, you've got the license, you're paying for it. There's some great functionality here, even if you just simply use it like Dropbox, or instead of WeTransfer and stuff like that. If you're emailing projects and files and stuff like that, it's such an odd way of doing things these days. There's some pretty good solutions out there, and the construction cloud's one of them. So take advantage. Use the license that you've got there. So yeah. Again, I'd like to thank you all for watching this webinar. We do host regular webinars on various applications and features. Jump onto the Man & Machine YouTube channel. All our webinars that we've previously broadcast live, they're all recorded and they all go onto our YouTube channel. As well as our webinars, there's all sorts of little short videos we've done on there for tips and tricks and features and tutorials on various applications and workflows and stuff like that for Autodesk products, and even outside the world of Autodesk as well. And again, jump onto the Man & Machine website, so manandmachine.co.uk. You can see all our upcoming webinars and events on there. You can access our blogs, you can see the various services we offer, and all the training classes that we deliver regularly as well. So again, thank you all for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and give docs a go.